Welcome to the definitive guide to content repurposing. I often talk a lot about ads, and to be fair, this is a great channel just for that. But if you're running ads, you should probably know about organic. And if you're running organic, you should probably know how to not work nearly as hard as you probably are to get far more results than you're probably already getting, to make a flywheel that allows the deployment of creative to be not only strategic, but low effort and very, very easy to manage. Let me break down what I've been doing for brands as big as 8 and 9 figures, as well as startups that can't even afford to run ads yet. This is the formats, the tools, the process, and the workflow that I use from, well, myself and huge businesses and startups, so that you don't even need to run ads to generate revenue, and that you can spend a few minutes a day to be everywhere, multiple times a day, contextually relevant, and dominate your organic social media efforts, which at the end of the day only makes your paid efforts even better. If you like what you have to do here and you're really interested in what we're talking about, please comment below with any questions that you have, and subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to this on the podcast, go ahead and subscribe there too. Set it up for auto downloads. You don't even have to listen. I'd still really, really appreciate it. Also, if you like this information and want more help, don't forget to sign up for the newsletter. And below down in the description here, you're going to find articles that I'm going to write for you to get deep dives into all of this stuff, plus a lot more links to other resources with ebooks and classes, webinars, and everything else that you might need. And if you are ultimately interested in leveling up your expertise executionally, if you are a Facebook media buyer and want to be a CMO, if you're a brand that's sick and tired of being taken advantage of by agencies, if you're an agency that realizes you need to change what you're doing, you're going to go out of business, join the Facebook Ads MBA program at mba.facebookdisruptor.com. Let's get started. So, when we are focusing on the repurposing of our content, we need to understand a few simple truths. Number one, what formats are we going to focus on? And generally speaking, what tools are we going to use to automate the vast majority of this workflow? So, let's start off with point number one, formats. There's generally 4 types of things that we need to keep in mind. Number one, long form, widescreen, normal landscape video. And by long form, I mean 8 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes or more. This is a very key part of the equation, primarily because we can chop these videos up and because there are a lot of platforms where this content can be repurposed. Number two, format-wise, is full screen vertical video, basically portrait mode. If you make portrait mode videos that are a minute or less, that is one of the most omnipresent forms of media on the internet today. Remember, TikTok, Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, YouTube. I mean, almost every single platform has an availability for this type of content to feel native. Number three, articles, writing blogs, writing stuff. The things that you see down below in the description here are going to be repurposed. And I'm going to tell you about all of that example workflow a little bit later on. And then the last thing we have to be mindful of when it comes to formats is whether or not we have the ability to make things natively or not. And native feeling stuff is incredibly important, especially when you're taking something from one platform to another. So we're going to cover all of that stuff, plus the tools. Now, the tools I'm going to cover today, number one I love is Publer. Publer.io, you can put one piece of content in there, one piece of media that you can connect to your Canva or your Google Drive. Take that and you can blast it out to LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, wherever you want your content to go, and it'll do it automatically with a calendar and give you back insights, and it's super cheap. There's a lot of tools that do it. That's the one that I use for my own business, for startups, and for 8-figure businesses that I'm growing. Because it's incredibly simple, it rarely ever breaks, and it provides me the ability to publish to the most options with the least amount of bells and whistles that ultimately get in the way of success. Next thing that I love to use is a tool called repurpose.io. Now, repurpose.io is amazing in that it'll take exactly what you have, rip it, and then if you post something, it can take it off of TikTok and sort to Google Drive without the watermarks. You can also take things and immediately repurpose them to other channels. Now, there are some issues here because you're not making things contextually relevant, so you can't edit, and the text may or may not fit. So there are some concerns, but it's an amazing tool to say if you post natively to one platform, you can then strip that and bring it right into Google Drive, which again connects directly to Publish, so you can immediately publish it to any other platform really, really easily. And you can just copy and paste whatever words you're going to use, make a design flow that feels a lot better to each individual platform. And if you want to update things, you can absolutely pull. The other two tools that I love to use for this automation. Number one, Zapier. It's been around forever. I don't use it as much anymore, but it's absolutely an opportunity if you want to take something from one place and try to put it someplace else, especially far more when it comes to articles and blog type content than it is with native video that has to be stripped and with no watermarks and with audio and all these other formatting things. The last thing that I'd like to use for this is in the content creation. A great tool that I use to automate editing and stuff is called captions.app. It's a great app. It will edit out the empty spaces in your video and put captions on the screen in a fun way that you can brand. And that means that you can start to repurpose long form content by chopping it up into minute-long sections and then take those out to other places. So we're going to talk about the process and breakdown of all of that stuff. But we'll get into that in a minute. What I want to cover right now is the understanding that when you are shooting content, when you are making content, where else can it go? So you need to have this flow chart. Now, if you're doing full screen vertical video, portrait mode, that is Pinterest idea pins. It is YouTube Shorts. Of course, it's also TikToks, Instagram, and Facebook Reels. That stuff also will go to Twitter, will go to LinkedIn. Now, it'll get cropped in some of these places, and it won't get cropped in others. Not in the full actual playback, but in the news feeds. Now, why this is really important is also the text that goes along with it is not universal. When you're putting things into YouTube, it's got a title and a description. When you're putting things into Instagram or TikTok, there's only one. So you have to understand how to make this work. Now, what I do with my assistant is I will format the actual text. So there's a block of text and then more. So generally, when he's repurposing that to other platforms, there is a little bit of logic that goes into it, like saying this is the thing that happens before something else. That is actually the title in Pinterest or the title in YouTube, and the caption or the body or the description might be the rest of it. Now, there are other places where we can put all of that in. If it's on Twitter, you might be tremendously limited on the overall characters you can use. So you can make sure that you use the headline or the title, but maybe you don't have the description. And you need to be mindful of that when ultimately putting things from one channel to another. Also, not everywhere uses hashtags. You have to be mindful of that stuff as well. Again, you can automate 90% of this workflow, but you need to be contextually relevant to each platform. But that's something that if you spent an afternoon once a week, you could plan the next week out completely. That makes it really, really easy. And with some tools, for instance, repurpose.io, you can actually strip that stuff out with logic if you want to. Now, one of the other things that we have to talk about here is the setting up of content to be repurposed. Let's take, for instance, this exact video that you're watching right now. If you notice, I'm more or less dead center. Also, down below is a long description. Now, there's a short description to begin with, and then some links, and then a header with a 3 to 5 paragraph description done 3 times. That's for each chapter in this video. Now, that's great. But that also means that you could go full vertical video by chopping out basically either a third of this, and this type of content is now full screen vertical video friendly. And the descriptions are already written. And the headline and video title already exists because it's the name of the chapter for this video. So we're gonna cover real second and real quick the process of breaking down bigger pieces. But I want you to understand that when you are designing the content that you want to use, especially as a content creator. Now we're not just talking about fun video shoots. Now we're talking about omni-channel full workload for overall content deployment. You have to know that it's more than just pretty pictures. It's more than just UGC video. If you're going to get above and beyond just having some billboard that exists and actually have a strategy to storytell and engage and make content that people can bite into more than just something hopefully they don't ignore in their feed, you need to be mindful of how all of that works. We'll get into the process of breaking down an example workflow here in just a second. I just want to say though, if you're at this part and you like this video so far, please go ahead and smash the like button. It means a lot. Ask questions in the comments below. Remember, those tools that we covered are Publer.io. There's no E in Publer because they're fun. Repurpose.io and Captions app. And of course, Zapier if you want to use that as well. Now, before we move on, I just want to say that I know you could be anywhere on the internet right now and you've chosen to be here, and I want to make sure that that is as helpful for you as possible. So if you have questions, please ask. Also, go down below and check out the newsletter. You can subscribe for free, and so you can get stuff like this in your inbox every single week for $0. It's newsletter.facebookdisruptor.com. And find me on the socials there, and you can see the deployment timelines on my Twitter, my Instagram, my TikTok, on Reddit, on all sorts of other places. Everywhere that people are, I've got content there multiple times a day, and it takes me less than 10 or 15 minutes a day to make sure that all that happens. If you want to know more about marketing and really want to up your skill set so that you can become what you think you deserve and it's not working out for you, mba.facebookdisruptor.com.